Coming up next, today's rose-laying ceremony just concluded about 3 hours ago. We'll bring you into the emotional event that marked the end of this year's Remembrance Week.
And we sat down with Remembrance scholar Lauren Crimmins.
She had so many dreams and aspirations, not only for her senior year here at Syracuse, but beyond. So trying to embody that is an honor, and it's very humbling.
How she is looking back and acting forward next.
And our executive producer Isha Battu takes us across the Atlantic to Lockerbie, Scotland to tell us about the impact the crash had on the small town.
This is CitrusTV News live at 6, your campus news leader.
Today's rose-laying ceremony marked the end of this year's Remembrance Week. The university honors 35 students who lost their lives in the Pan Am crash that occurred nearly 31 years ago in Lockerbie, Scotland. Good evening, I'm Greg Bradbury.
And I'm Anthony Dabbundo. We will be dedicating the beginning of this show to Remembrance Week and all those lives lost in the tragedy. First, we'd like to honor the victims who were students at SU, just like Greg, myself, and many of our friends here at Citrus TV. And we'd like to take a moment to remember and honor the victims. Stephen Burrell was a communications and management major, as well as a member of the Phi Delta Theta fraternity.
Kenneth Brissett was a student from Cornell University, studying in London through the SU Abroad program.
Stephen Boland was a member of the Delta Tau Delta fraternity, remembered for his love of the Beatles.
Nicole Boulanger was a senior, passionate about theater from Shrewsbury, Massachusetts.
Timothy Cardwell was a member of the ROTC and was posthumously awarded the Army Commendation Medal.
Theodora Cohen was passionate about acting and singing, majoring in drama at SU.
Eric and Jason Coker were twin brothers from New Jersey. Jason wrote for the Daily Orange, and Eric studied at the University of Rochester.
Gary Colasanti was an avid skier and a member of Sigma Alpha Epsilon.
Scott Corey was an SU junior, and a memorial scholarship was set up in his name after the crash.
Gretchen Dater was studying at the Maryland Institute of Art, studying in London through SU Abroad.
Shannon Davis was passionate about children and one day planned to open a daycare center.
Teron Ergin was an actor and a member of the SU lacrosse team.
John Flynn was a Colgate University junior and a player on the men's basketball team.
Pamela Herbert was a Bowdoin College junior and won many academic awards during her college career.
Karen Lee Hunt was an English major working toward a magazine career. She is remembered as being a warm and caring person.
Christopher Jones was an SU junior. He wrote for the Daily Orange and reported for WAER Radio.
Julianne Kelly was a public relations major and loved to write poetry in her spare time.
Wendy Lincoln was studying photography and illustration. Friends and family say her greatest joy was helping others.
Alexander Lowenstein wanted to become a clinical psychologist and was a member of the Zeta Psi fraternity.
Suzanne Miazga was studying social work and wanted to better the lives of others in her future.
Richard Minetti studied journalism and wrote in a journal that his philosophy to life was to make the most of everything.
Anne Otanezik was learning sign language to fulfill her goal of bettering the lives of deaf children.
Peter Pierce was coming home from Florence, where he was pursuing a master's to teach design.
Sarah Phillips was a junior at the University of Colorado at Boulder and wanted to be either a publisher or a lawyer.
Frederick Phillips had returned to school after working in business. He's remembered for his love of music and poetry.
Louise Ann Rogers was a senior studying through SU Abroad and is remembered as someone who did everything with style.
Thomas Schultz was a member of the Phi Delta Theta fraternity and planned to attend law school after graduation.
Amy Elizabeth Shapiro was a passionate writer and photographer and worked for multiple publications during her time on campus.
Cynthia Smith was studying fashion and design and was a member of the Delta Phi Epsilon sorority.
Mark Tobin was studying to become a sports journalist, and his friends and family remember him as always being optimistic.
Alexia Saris was a junior, and professors remember her as one of the most promising photojournalists of her class.
Nicholas Vrenios always carried his camera, guitar, and a skateboard wherever he went, including when he went to London. He is remembered for his favorite expression, "Go for it."
Kesha Whedon is remembered for her love of children and her dedication to music.
Miriam Wolf spent her semester abroad studying dance and acting, and her family remembers her for her exuberant personality.
Today's rose-laying ceremony brought together remembrance scholars, families and friends of the victims, and the SU community. Our photojournalist Ricky Sayer was at the event and shows us how SU celebrated its victims.
"31 years after the tragedy, this community seeks to act forward. The privilege of being a remembrance scholar is carrying the spirit of the 35 students we lost with us on a daily basis.
She cared deeply about our world and the pain and suffering of others. She was always there to make you laugh, but she was also your shoulder to cry on.
In each of life's losses, he saw not defeat, but an opportunity to better himself and others around him.
He loved Syracuse University and once dyed his hair bright orange to show off his school pride.
A dear friend of Alexi, Janice Cunningham, wrote, "You are always the sunshine, but the sun hasn't set for you, Alex, my friend. It has only risen on another beach."
There will always be a scar, though to remind these two communities of what happened on the 21st of December 1988.
Alexia was sensitive, bright, and ambitious. She believed that we cannot live in fear, and hoped that her life's work would one day make a difference in a world torn by injustice, conflict, and human suffering. It has.
She was an avid writer and a caring person who wrote this poem for a friend. "Someday soon, from now till forever, I'll meet you again, and we'll be together. I'm not sure how, and I'm not sure when. Together forever, summer I thought. I lay this rose on behalf of Karen, and act forward in remembering.
I lay this rose on behalf of Scott.
I lay this rose on behalf of Steve.
I lay this rose on behalf of Nicole.
I lay this rose on behalf of Alexander.
I lay this rose on behalf of Peter and act forward in his memory."
Beautiful story there by Ricky Sayer. One of the last people to lay a rose was Lauren Crimmins. Earlier this week, I sat down with her to hear her connection with the victim she represents. Today, Lauren Crimmins laid down a rose on the Remembrance Wall, but her journey as a Remembrance Scholar began when she first stepped on campus.
So it was really my first week on campus that I knew I wanted to apply to be a Remembrance Scholar.
Crimmins represents Miriam Wolf, one of the 35 Syracuse University students who died when a bomb exploded on Pan Am Flight 103. Her connection to Wolf began at last year's rose-laying ceremony and continued when she visited Lockerbie, Scotland during her time abroad.
There is this small chapel where there are a few books. One of them, each page has one name of each of the 270 victims, and another book is On Eagle's Wings, which is dedicated to each of the victims. And then there's a third book in the corner of the room for visitors to sign. And I had a friend who was a Remembrance Scholar at the time, so I signed for her, but I also wrote a note to Miriam. And at that time, I had just interviewed to be a Remembrance Scholar. I didn't know if I was going to be one yet, and I didn't know if I was chosen to be a Remembrance Scholar, whether or not I would be paired with Miriam. And I wrote a note to her promising her that I would always aim to marry her two passions of entertainment and advocacy and move forward and look forward and act forward in her honor in that way for the rest of my life.
Crimmins would soon be selected to represent Miriam Wolf as Remembrance Scholar. The two share a common passion for entertainment and social justice.
Miriam was a musical theater major, and she had a passion for advocacy, social and political justice, and also the power of theater and entertainment. So she wanted to create an alternative theater group on campus, and she wanted to center it around social and political issues and raise awareness for AIDS research and rape prevention and women's rights.
Crimmins is the vice president of University Union, a group that plans large events for the campus community. This week, a special event shared Miriam Wolf's message.
University Union is collaborating with the LGBT Resource Center and the Disability Cultural Center to bring Ryan O'Connell, a comedian who identifies as gay and disabled and is an advocate for representation in entertainment. And throughout the entire planning process of this event, Miriam has inspired me, and it's actually officially dedicated to her in Remembrance Week.
For Crimmins, this is one way to look back and act forward, but she says that each student on campus can find a way to do the same.
I am one of many kids on this campus that mirror traits and aspirations and goals of the victims that passed away, and I'm lucky enough to try to represent and embody one of the victims, Miriam, this year, but I really think that all of us mirror something in these victims.
For Lauren Crimmins, she may have set down a rose for Miriam Wolfe today, but she will carry her with her throughout life.
So I hope that years from now, when I come back here and I'm sitting here by this wall again, I feel like I've learned more and more from Miriam, and I'm not done learning from her and honoring her.
As Crimmins continues her senior year, be on the lookout for the ways University Union is combining entertainment and social advocacy with her help.
And while we reflect on how the crash affected our own campus community, there is another community many miles away that is experiencing a similar pain in relation to the Pan Am flight. That town is Lockerbie, Scotland, where the flight crashed many years ago. Our executive producer, Isha Battu, takes us across the Atlantic to that town's tale. Isha?
About 7 months ago, while I was studying abroad in London, I had the opportunity to go to Lockerbie as a Lockerbie ambassador. There, I got to speak to many members of the community, including one man who was a firefighter on the scene the night of the disaster. What he told me was a story not of tragedy, but of hope, love, and resilience.
It was the biggest UK crime at the time, and was one of the biggest crimes in world history up until 2001, and it happened right here in this most rural, peaceful town, so that the contrast couldn't have been more stark.
That rural, peaceful town is Lockerbie, Scotland. Made up of just about 4,000 people, everything changed for the residents of Lockerbie when flight Pan Am 103 blew up in the sky nearly 31 years ago, crashing into the small town and taking the lives of 11 people on the ground and all 259 on board. Colin Dorrance was a firefighter on scene that night, and he remembers the immediate impact of the crash. Lives lost, fire blazing through the sky, homes completely destroyed. He also remembers the long-term impact the incident left on the people in his town.
They had post-traumatic stress disorder to deal with. They couldn't talk about what happened here. There were difficulties with relationships because of all of that. Domestic issues, alcoholism were all things that were there beneath the surface and needed to be dealt with.
This darkness, however, did not last forever.
Slowly but surely, hope sprung from what was such a terrible dark day, that relationships across the Atlantic sprung up. The scholarship struck up between the local school here and Syracuse University, and the town see that as the most important thing and the silver lining in what was a very dark cloud.
Dorrance is describing the Lockerbie Scholar Program, in which 2 students from Lockerbie come to SU to study each year for free.
Pan Am 103 must never happen again, and we need to get that message out there that we will not be defeated by terrorism, but the response is one of love, not hate.
And while the Pan Am tragedy is a major part of Lockerbie's history, Dorrance stresses that the town is a lot more than its past.
I would encourage people to come here and see it not just through a 30-year-old lens, but see it for what it is today and for the future.
Although the university mourns the tragedy in October, the town of Lockerbie especially mourns in December, the month in which the incident actually happened. Last year, for the 30th anniversary, the community held an emotional ceremony at Drivesdale Cemetery, which is the main memorial of the crash. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Isha. Coming up next, how the city of Syracuse and SU are coming together to make winter more bearable for students and residents.
And it's been raining on and on all day, but we will give it some time. I'll come back for the full weather forecast to tell you how that will look.
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown and feel technique. After the first drown, a good start. Next, another drink. And finally, a close field.
Is it cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Smokey, catch. Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why couldn't the Wait, why was the basketball court all wet? Why? Because the players kept dribbling all over it. Where did cats go on vacation? New York.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
If you see news happening on campus, in Syracuse, or across the nation, call the Citrus TV Newsroom, 315-443-1177, or tweet at CitrusTV News, your campus news leader.
Today marks the first day of the 150 days of service at SU. Students, faculty, and alumni are gathering at Walnut Park to learn how to get involved with different service events. The kickoff event is in collaboration with Greek or Treat, a fraternity and sorority affairs event that gives kids an evening of safe trick-or-treating.
And Syracuse University is stepping up this winter season as a part of the expansion of the City of Syracuse sidewalk snow plowing program. The university will plow streets on or near campus, including Euclid Avenue from Comstock to Westcott Street and Comstock Avenue from East Genesee Street to East Colvin Street. This will allow the city to add more plowing routes in other areas of the city.
From the Citrus TV Weather Center, this is SU's most accurate weather forecast.
And yesterday was a pretty nice day. Today, not so much.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of rain, and we just talked about enhanced sidewalk snow removal. Hopefully we don't have to deal with that just yet. Walker, what's coming for us?
Well, guys, you said it yesterday was a lot better in comparison to today. Looking at today, we've got a lot of gloomy skies and some scattered showers throughout the day. We got a high of 52, so standing at 50 right now, it's not expected to get much warmer. And as we head into tonight, 48 degrees with a low of 42, so it is going to get chilly. Make sure you bundle up if you're going outside, expecting to spend your night outside. Also, this rain we're experiencing right now isn't going to leave us. We have a 65% chance of rain, so make sure you dress dry as well heading into tonight. And waking up tomorrow morning, we got a high humidity because of the rain you're experiencing right now. However, no rain. That's a plus, especially if you're going to be up early on a Saturday morning. 44 degrees, so it won't feel that cold because of this high humidity. That is definitely a plus. And then when we step back and look at how the rest of Saturday will look, it's not expected to go that much hotter in temperature. As you can see, we got a high of 54, and it's expected to stay within the high 40s, low 50s, excuse me. And Saturday's looking to be pretty nice. Not clear skies, but no rain, so that is definitely a plus. It's looking like a clear Saturday. Not as nice as our football team over in Tallahassee. They're experiencing some nice warm weathers. But taking a step back, looking at things geographically here, no big difference, no a lot of outliers. You can see Elmira's at 55, and then across the board from Rochester to Binghamton, we're sitting at 51, 53, and then Syracuse and Rome dipping into those high 40s. But that is all I have. Gil, how are things looking in sports?
Well, coming up in sports, Syracuse has lost a starter for the season, and it's not injury related. Plus, we'll preview the Oranges weekend matchup, and also, could that be true? Basketball season starts tomorrow. Keep it locked right here.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
What are you, superheroes?
Just four brothers who hate bullies and love this city. Gear up, guys.
And now, your Citrus TV Sports Report.
Less than a week after head coach Dino Babers declared everyone's job is in jeopardy, a Syracuse offensive lineman is calling it quits. Sources told the Post-Standard tackle Ryan Alexander is leaving the football team. Alexander was part of an offensive line that's given up a D1 worst 35 sacks. Canadian freshman Matthew Bergeron has practiced in his place. This week, Syracuse takes on Florida State. Both teams are relatively desperate. They have matching 3-4 records, matching 2-game losing streaks, and there's also questions at quarterback. FSU is publicly leaning towards James Blackman to play Saturday over Alex Hornibrook, but they won't officially name him the starter. Blackman nearly led the Seminoles to a win over ranked Wake Forest last week, but fumbled twice late. Over on the Syracuse side, Babers says if Tommy DeVito is healthy, he'll play. DeVito was pulled from last week's Pittsburgh loss after taking a hard hit. Backup Clayton Welsh is also nursing an upper body injury sustained against the Panthers. The Cuse quarterbacks have taken a beating behind a struggling O-line. Babers is preaching patience while this group develops.
What I do feel like is that we've got a bunch of young guys that are playing a bunch of older guys, and they need to continue to develop. The same people that you're talking about now, in a year or two, could be one of the best O-lines in the ACC because of how much they've played together.
Well, the Cuse line isn't going to develop much before kickoff against Florida State, but there's legitimate reason that the protection could be better on Saturday. Syracuse's 3 ACC opponents, Clemson, NC State, and Pittsburgh, are all top 10 in the nation in sacks per game. FSU is 51st. They should be way easier to block, and we'll also keep an eye on the effects of the Ryan Alexander departure. Kickoff is 3:30 tomorrow. That means it ends around 6, so prepare a very quick dinner. The first look at Syracuse men's basketball should be about an hour later. The Orange get a chance to showcase a 5-deep freshman class and an expanded role for leading returner Elijah Hughes. The opponent is Damon, a Division II school in Amherst, New York. They played an exhibition against Buffalo last night and lost 111-73. 15th ranked field hockey hosts Wake Forest tonight. Syracuse has lost 3 straight against the Demon Deacons, but Wake is down this season. They're dead last in the ACC. Face-off is at 7 from JS Coyne. Meanwhile, volleyball takes on Tobacco Road. Tonight, it's Chapel Hill for a duel with North Carolina. On Sunday, they play NC State. The road has been kind to the Cuse, though. 4 of their 5 wins have come away from home. And in the rink, Syracuse ice hockey is still looking for its first win of the season. It's actually the worst start in program history, and right now taking on 6th-ranked Princeton. There is no score in the first period. Princeton are the defending Ivy League champs. In the NFL, there's drama in the Jets organization. Kelechi Osemele got surgery on a torn labrum in his shoulder. Only issue is he didn't have permission from the team doctors. The Jets say he could have played through it, and today, New York slammed the lineman with a fine over $500,000 for missing team activities. He was in Boston for surgery. Brutal, uncomfortable story there.
Yeah, and obviously big matchups in the NFL this weekend. An even bigger matchup in the Fantasy Football League. Dabbundo and I are playing each other this week. You saw the teams. Kirk Cousins played for me last night. Didn't do too well. Who do you got, though?
I think you guys are selfish for putting your fantasy football matchup ahead. Meanwhile, you have Washington, D.C. There hasn't been a World Series game since the 30s, and we're talking about fantasy football. But I'm going with Dabbundo for the pink shirt.
Absolutely. I'm going to stay in first place. Coming up next, we'll have one last look at our weather. It's looking rainy for Greg.
Taking care of a family member can lead to plenty of questions. Fortunately, there's a place to get the answers, for them and for you. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. You're gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Go, okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back to Citrus TV News. Walker's here for one last look at the 5-day weather. What can we expect going into next week?
Well, going into next week, Sunday, just starting off the week, we're going to get a lot of clouds. It's going to be rainy, although on the bright side, high of 63, and then throughout the week, it's going to be partly cloudy. Expect some showers on Wednesday, and sadly, Wednesday, we're starting to dip into the 30s. As you can see, high of 54, low of 37 on Wednesday. But for the weekend, for right now, we got a great Saturday coming up and a rainy Sunday.
Thanks, Walker. Halloween is kicking off a few days early this year. Glazed and Confused Donuts is hosting its second annual Halloween dog costume party tomorrow morning.
Now, customers are encouraged to dress up their dogs and bring them into the store tomorrow morning from 10 to noon for free doggy donuts and sweet treats. Now, the dog with the best costume will win a prize. Now, Anthony, I know if I brought my dogs, they would definitely win. I don't know which one. I got two, Tucker and George. One's a little Yorkie, one is a Labradoodle, but they love Halloween and, of course, free treats as well.
Now, I personally don't have a dog anymore. Sadly, he passed last year, but I know that there's nothing Chester loved more than people food. It would get him really excited. He would bark at us for every single meal, so I'm sure he would really love to take part in that if he could. But that's all the time we have for you tonight on Citrus TV News. I'm Anthony Dabbundo.
And I'm Greg Bradbury. Juice and Java tomorrow at 11:30 in the morning. See you.